what are some of your favorite books from childhood?
Oh my gosh. So I mentioned one earlier already, and that's The Secret Garden by Frances Hodges Burnett. And I think it's probably one of the first times that I remember escaping in my reading. As a child, we moved a lot. I went to 12 different schools in 14 years because my father was a corporate troubleshooter. And so we did a lot of moves within the continental United States. And so my books were my friends, especially in those early days of getting to a new school and meeting new people. But being able to take an adventure was something that I profoundly remember and still enjoy doing. And then for me too, I still collect picture books. There are some amazing storytellers out there. Carmen Agrediti comes to mind as a children's book author who is one of my favorite authors. She has profound stories to tell, and I've had the pleasure of going to 2 workshops that she's run for teachers, talking about how personal our stories are and how they carry us forward. And then Robert McCloskey, who I mentioned, was a favorite of my children's. In my youngest child, it's Click, Clack, Moo, Cows That Type.
That's a brilliant book.
I mean, who doesn't love unionized cows?
Exactly.
And so I think, thinking of those and the fond memories that we have as a family with those. And then, lately as an adult, even looking at picture books like What Do You Do with an Idea? Or Simon Sinek has a new book out called Together is Better, that are really important business and leadership principles, but they're put forth through a picture book.
That's fantastic. It's really interesting for me. Like you, I moved a lot as a child. Mine was more international, so my books really were like yours. They were my escape place, my friends. And now as an adult, raising a child in a different country, I'm being exposed to a whole bunch of different authors that I never read as a child. So like McCloskey and Little House on the Prairie. I've never read that. So I'm reading it now because my child read it last year, and I was like, what's that about? And he's like, oh, I'm not telling you. So I had to sit down and read it, but getting this whole other perspective of books that I didn't grow up with and seeing another avenue and another window into the world.
Well, and to that point, the diversity of books that we have today.
Yes.
I mean, both the diversity of authors and then also the diversity of the stories that are being told. I mean, Linda Sue Park is an Asian author who wrote this amazing story called A Long Walk to Water about the Lost Boys of the Sudan. And making that accessible in a YA, young adult fiction novel, but how we're bringing the world to our students these days. Another one that comes to mind for me is Shooting Kabul, about a photographer in Kabul, Afghanistan, and how we can start to make some of these historical fictions accessible to our students, but relevant in the world today, and really have them thinking about things. African-American authors like Nikki Grimes, who does wonderful poetry focused on gratitude and who we are as people, and what an important lesson, and also what an important lesson of bringing in diverse authors from different perspectives.
Exactly. I love that, because really, in the end, while reading has provided all of us with the ability to work and to do amazing things with our lives, being able to access different points of view, develop that empathy from reading, even if we can't experience all of these things, is really an important part of being a good adult. And if you can build that early through these diverse experiences in books, you're really getting ahead of the game when it comes to being, I don't want to say a successful adult, but to be an adult.
Contributing adult.
That's a good way of putting it.
Really to have the very perspectives, to your point, to be able to put on the lens of both empathy and difference, and recognize the beautiful stories that come out of that.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jenna.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Speaking of Reading. If you'd like to follow along and join us for more episodes, you can find links in the description, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.